And here we're going to put in the connection server. Hit next. Then the password, the pairing password that we put in on the connection server side, we're going to put that in. Hit next. Again, make sure you do it within the time frame. Otherwise, you have to go back and re-enable that again and put the password in again. So here we have the security server configurations. We're going to set up the external URL. So this is a demo environment, so I'm not really going to be setting this all up for external access. But if it was a production environment and you were doing that, you would obviously have created an external address to for users to connect to. So you would put that in here. And then for PC over IP external URL has the IP address of the security server with 4172 for the port. And then for Blast external URL, it is going to be the security server with 8443. So again, we're going to configure the Windows firewall between the connection server and the security server automatically and click install. So as you see, just like the connection server, it's pretty straightforward and basic configuring this. Not much to it at all. Most of the configuration comes to play within the view administrator. Okay, so that finished up, and like before, I'm not going to bother looking at the README file. I'm going to click Finish. Now, just as a good practice, I always like to reboot after doing any type of Windows install. It may not be necessary, but again, just out of good habits, I like to go ahead and do a reboot. So I'm going to go ahead and restart this security server, and I'm going to pause the recording for now. So I've gone back over to our connection server. I've clicked on the security server tabs, and now after doing the reboot of the security server, you see that the security server now shows up successfully in the view administrator. So we've successfully attached to the vCenter server. The connection server shows good, and now we've connected to the security server and done all the initial configurations. Okay, so after we've done the initial configuration of the view administrator, now the first step is to get a view desktop pool created. I had to create a virtual desktop, so I went ahead and I created a Windows 7 virtual desktop. I've added it to the domain already. Obviously got it on the network. I've also gone ahead and uploaded the OS optimization tool, which is great for making settings to help with a virtual desktop, which is very different than a physical desktop. So this is a tool that VMware has provided to help you for view desktops and to do some optimization on it. And then also we have to install the agent on the Windows 7 desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to install the agent. So then that way the connection server can recognize and see this particular desktop, and that'll allow me to add it to a pool and make it accessible. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. I'm going to accept the EULA agreement, hit next, and we're doing IP version 4. So we're going to click next. Now, if you're going to use, by default, USB direction is turned off, as well as the instant clone agent. I'm not going to be doing instant clones. USB redirection, let's say we may use it. So we're going to go ahead and enable that. And then if you're going to use scanners, smart cards, serial ports, flash redirection, anything like that, you can also do that. So for this purpose, I'm just going to go ahead with those and click next. And we're going to click install. As you see here, the program runs pretty quickly, just like it did with the connection server, but even a little quicker. And now the agent installer has finished, so click finish. Now you should do a reboot, but I'm going to click no for right now. I do want to run the optimization tool real quick. I had previously started running it, so some of the optimizations have already been changed already. So I'm going to go ahead and rerun it again now that I got the Horizon View agent on here, because it was looking for that to make some adjustments in that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and rerun the optimization tool. So it does a quick analyzation of it. As you see, most of it's green because of setting and running the optimization tool previously to running the agent. As you see, most of it has in the blue here, it's already been optimized. There are a few things that have not been optimized yet. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click optimize just to get those last couple of items. But I highly recommend that you do this for any virtual desktops because there's a lot of things such as screensaver, um, power settings and stuff like that that you don't want on for a virtual desktop. So this takes care of all of them in one fell swoop. You can also do this by doing Active Directory group policy settings as well. So anyway, so we went ahead and we ran that. I'm going to close that off. And now I'm going to restart the desktop and I'll pause the video in the meantime. Okay, so as you see here, the Windows 7 desktop is back up and running now. So let's go back over to the connection server. Okay, now that we're in the Horizon Administrator, we're going to go ahead and create what I'm going to do is create a dedicated pool for that particular desktop, just to show you an example of creating a desktop pool. So under Catalog, we have Desktop Pools, which is where I'm at now. We're going to go ahead and click Add. And because it's just going to be dedicated to that one virtual machine, that Windows 7 virtual machine that we just created, I'm going to go ahead and create a manual desktop pool because it's just going to be for that one. So I'm going to click Next. It's going to be dedicated. And I'm going to go ahead and enable automatic assignment as well to it. Floating, again, there is a pool of Windows desktops, and when you go to log in, it will just assign you any particular desktop which is in that pool. So again, we're going to do a dedicated one because this one particular desktop in this single dedicated pool is what we're looking to accomplish. So we're going to click Next. And I want to be able to grab virtual machines and specifically desktops from my virtual center server. So we're going to click Next and keep it on there. There's my virtual center. I only have the one, so that's the one I want. I'm going to click Next. And we're going to give basically a name to the pool. The ID, just to let you know, you can't have any spaces or anything in it. So you have to either use dashes or no space at all. And then you have the display name. You can put spaces and make it a little more friendlier name if you choose to and put in a description. But I'm just going to leave it at this. I'm going to go next. Okay, now we have some settings here. Under general here, we have the state, which is enabled, connection server redirections. Don't need to worry about that. Remote settings, remote machine power policy, take no action is an option, ensure machine is always powered on. Now being this is going to be my desktop as administrator, I'm going to want to make sure that this desktop is always running. So that way if, say, I lose power, the host reboots, it will automatically kick this machine off and start it. Then we have automatically log off after a disconnect. I would go ahead and say yes for security purposes immediately, or maybe you can just do after, say, 10 minutes. We'll do that. Allow users to reset their machines. Since this is mine, I'm going to go ahead and say yes, but for general users, you may select to not do that so they can't power off their virtual machine. And then the default display protocol. It can be either Microsoft RDP, PC over P, or VMware Blast. Let's go ahead and do VMware Blast. Allow users to choose protocol, yes. 3D rendering, you can, depending on the type of, if you have, say, hardware acceleration cards for video, such as NVIDIA Grid, you would select that. Or you can do software, hardware, depending again on what you have, but you can also put this as automatic. There's also some settings you can do by clicking configure here for more detail as far as the VRAM size, but we're just going to leave that the same. Max number of monitors, 2, which is good. For the max resolution, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it at the max of 1680 by 1050 because I like a higher res. HTML access, typically I want to do that. That's why I can connect to it via an HTML5 browser and don't have to use the Horizon View client. And for Adobe Flash quality and throttling, You can leave this as the same, or obviously you can make different adjustments depending on what your particular policies are. Keep in mind with Flash, you want to be careful because if you set this to where the settings are high, it can bog down your bandwidth if a lot of your users are doing a lot of Flash. And so I recommend being very cautious with those settings. And then there's a checkbox here for overriding global Mirage settings. Mirage is for image management for both physical and virtual machines, but we're not using Mirage, so we don't need to worry about that. So we're going to click Next. Now here we're going to select virtual machine I want to put in to this particular desktop dedicated pool, which is going to be mine, and click Add, and click Next. And then usually most people like to use the View Storage Accelerator and use the default 7 days. Something you want to look into, read up on a little bit as far as whether you want to do it, uh, how many days you want to keep that, and would like it to be regenerated. Again, the default is 7. You can also do blackout times. Again, not really going to get into that. And